Alien girl asks human to stay until dawn, but human learns dawn arrives only for her kind. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The storm had been clawing at the old radar outpost for hours, rattling metal panels and pushing sheets of icy wind through every cracked seam. Evan Cole wiped frost from his visor, listening to the soft hum of the emergency heater fighting a losing battle. He'd come out here to fix a malfunctioning transmitter, not to be stranded on a remote stretch of alien desert with night temperatures dropping fast enough to freeze breath midair. The lights flickered again. Evan exhaled slowly. Come on. Just hold for one more hour, he murmured, tapping the console with numb fingers. Outside, the storm roared back, a low, electric moan that made the steel ribs of the outpost tremble. Then, 3 soft knocks. They shouldn't have been possible. Nothing human lived within 100 miles. And no one sane would be out in this cold. Evan froze, heart thudding once, hard, against his ribs. The knocks came again. Quiet, hesitant, almost afraid. He unlatched the door and cracked it open just enough for a gust of freezing wind to claw inside. In the dark stood a slender figure wrapped in thin, shimmering fabric that looked soaked with frost. Pale blue skin, soft, luminescent, glowed faintly beneath the storm's harsh pulses of lightning. Silver eyes lifted to him, wide and unfocused, as if she'd walked farther than her body could handle. For a moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the howl of cold air sweeping between them. Then her voice, barely above a whisper. Please, may I come inside? Evan didn't hesitate. He pulled her in gently, shutting the door fast to stop the storm from swallowing the last of the heat. She staggered once. Evan steadied her with an arm under her shoulder, surprised at how light she felt. How cold her hands were against his glove. Easy, he said. Softly. You're freezing. Sit here. She settled near the heater, its warm orange glow brushing her features. Her skin held delicate patterns that brightened and dimmed with her breathing, like distant stars flickering behind a veil. She glanced at him, nervous, unsure, yet grateful. My name is Lyrian, she said. Evan nodded. Evan, I didn't expect company tonight. Her gaze drifted toward the sealed door, worry tightening her posture. I could not stay out there any longer. Not until dawn. Evan frowned. Dawn won't come for hours. Lyrian's eyes softened with something he didn't understand. Not for your kind, she whispered. The heater hummed. The storm screamed. Evan felt the air shift, the kind of silence that tells you a mystery has just stepped into the room with you. The heater's faint orange glow pulsed across the metal walls, catching the frost still clinging to Lyrian's hair. Evan adjusted the thermostat gently, careful not to shock the fragile system. Warm air drifted through the outpost in uneven waves, and he watched her shoulders loosen as the tension slowly unraveled from her posture. She kept her hands close to the heat, palms hovering above the vent as if memorizing its warmth. Her eyes followed the rising vapor like she was seeing something rare. Evan crouched beside a panel, checking wires he had already checked 3 times. Anything to keep his thoughts steady. You walked out there alone, he said quietly. What were you looking for? Lyrian studied her fingers for a long moment before answering. Shelter. A place where the darkness cannot reach me. Her voice trembled slightly, not with fear, but with exhaustion. Evan nodded slowly. Storm like that would freeze anyone in minutes. You are lucky you reached this place. She turned her gaze toward him, and the shimmering patterns beneath her skin brightened just a little. It was not luck. I followed light. Evan blinked. There is no light out there. Not one you see, she murmured. But I felt it from this place. Faint, but safe. Evan exhaled, unsure what to say to that, so he returned to tightening a bolt on the heater panel. The silence between them softened, like settling snow. When he glanced up again, Lyrian's eyes were tracing the equipment around them, curious but cautious. You live here? She asked. Not tonight, he said with a faint smile. I came to fix the transmitter. Should have been a short job. Then the storm hit. She looked around the cramped space, the metal shelves, the console lights flickering as if deciding whether to stay alive. It feels lonely, she whispered. Looks can be deceiving, he replied. I have seen lonelier places. Lyrian pulled her knees closer to herself, the fabric around her glowing softly when it rubbed against her skin. She seemed to gather courage before asking, Does the darkness frighten you, Evan? He considered that. The wind pressed against the door again, low and distant. Storms worry me, he admitted. But fear? Not exactly. Darkness is just the absence of light. It passes. She lowered her gaze. Not for my kind. Evan caught the shift in her tone, subtle but heavy. He moved a little closer, slow enough not to startle her. Earlier you said dawn does not come for my kind. What does that mean? Her breath trembled, and the dim light within her skin pulsed once, like a heartbeat echo. My people carry dawn with us, she said softly. Our bodies create it. A warmth. A brightness that keeps the dark things of my world away. But it only appears when two of us are close enough to share it. She looked down at her hands, studying the faint glow. I am alone now. My light is fading. Evan's chest tightened. Not from fear, but from something more human. And you thought staying here might help? She lifted her eyes, silver and tired. I hope to survive the night. A long moment passed before Evan stood and pulled one of the emergency blankets from the shelf. He wrapped it gently around her shoulders. She blinked in surprise. You should rest, he said. You are safe here, Lyrian. She held the blanket close, soaking in its warmth. Why are you kind to me? Evan shrugged once, quietly. Because you knocked. The heater hummed steadily now. The storm outside eased, just barely. And in the soft glow of the failing lights, Lyrian's skin brightened again, faint but real, as if responding to something she had not felt in a long time. The storm settled into a low, distant rumble, the kind that made the metal beams vibrate like a slow-breathing creature. Evan checked the battery indicator on the heater again, tapping the screen with the side of his thumb. 70% left. Enough to get them through several hours, but not enough to feel comfortable. Lyrian sat with the blanket pulled around her shoulders, her gaze drifting between the heater vent and the thin seam of the door. The faint glow beneath her skin pulsed gently, like it was trying to stay alive. Evan settled on the floor across from her, leaning back against a crate of spare wiring. You should sleep if you can, he said. Your body needs the warmth. She shook her head slowly. Sleep is not safe for me when the light inside fades. Her voice was soft, almost apologetic. The darkness waits for silence. Evan frowned slightly, trying to understand without dismissing her. Then stay awake. I can keep watch. Lyrian's eyes softened in a way he had not seen before. You would do that? Evan offered a small shrug, the kind that made his jacket creak. Seems like you have had a long night. For the first time, she let out a small breath that might have been a laugh. It was quiet, thin, but real. The glow along her cheeks brightened just a little. She turned her hands palm up, watching the faint shimmer ripple across her skin. My people shared dawn by touching hands, she murmured, almost to herself. When two are close, the light grows. It keeps everything warm. Evan nodded thoughtfully. So warmth is not just temperature for you. It is connection, she said. Life recognizes life. Light answers light. But I have been alone too long. Her voice wavered on the last words, the admission costing her more than any physical effort. Evan did not move closer. He simply let his voice stay steady. You are not alone tonight. Lyrian blinked at him, silver eyes catching the heater's glow. The patterns under her skin shimmered in response, like tiny constellations waking up. When you speak, she said quietly, the air feels less cold. Evan chuckled under his breath. I have been told I talk too much. Maybe this is the first time it helps. Lyrian tilted her head, studying him with a curious expression, as if she was trying to match his warmth to something she remembered. Your presence is different, she whispered. Human warmth is not like ours. It is quiet. Steady. She paused, a flicker of emotion crossing her features. Comforting. Outside, the wind softened even more, as if listening. Evan shifted his weight, stretching his legs out on the cold floor. How long until your dawn would appear? If there was another of your kind here? Lyrian looked down at her hands again. It would already be here. Her voice tightened with something close to longing. The room would be filled with light by now. Evan watched her carefully. Does being close to someone else help, even if they are not your species? Lyrian hesitated. The glow beneath her skin flickered, then dimmed, then brightened again with the rhythm of her breathing. I do not know. She looked up at him with quiet fear and fragile hope. I have never been close to anyone who is not like me. The heater hummed. The storm exhaled a long breath against the walls. Evan's voice dropped to a gentle murmur. Then maybe we will figure it out together. And for the first time since she had stepped into the outpost, Lyrian's glow grew strong enough to cast a faint light across the metal floor. The faint glow Lyrian had managed to summon slowly faded back to a soft shimmer, but Evan noticed it lingered longer this time, as though the light itself was trying to hold on. The heater hummed with a steady rhythm, filling the small outpost with a low warmth that kept the cold at the edges of the room instead of right against their skin. Evan checked the storm monitor again. The screen showed moving static, flickers of pale blue streaks swirling across the graph. Still nothing, he said quietly. Wind speeds are dropping, but the sky is completely dark. Lyrian watched the display with uneasy eyes. Darkness is patient. It thins before it deepens again. Evan leaned back, rubbing the stiffness from his neck. You talk about it like it is alive. She wrapped the blanket tighter around herself. To my people it is. Not a creature, not a mind. Just a presence that fills what light cannot reach. She paused. We are taught to respect it, and to keep our dawn strong. Evan tipped his head slightly. This dawn of yours, is it something you control? Not control, she corrected softly. Share. It comes from our life energy, but it needs another to reflect it. A single spark cannot become dawn. Evan took that in quietly, aware of the weight behind her words. Her glow dimmed again, so faint he almost missed it. She pressed her palms together as if trying to warm them from the inside. You said it grows stronger when two of your kind stand close, Evan said. Does that mean you can only survive with them nearby? Lyrian hesitated, her breath catching just slightly. Not survive, she whispered, but endure. When we gather, our light becomes a sanctuary. It keeps the darkness from touching us. Evan felt something tighten quietly inside him. So you came all this way alone? Lyrian nodded. There used to be many of us here. A colony for exploration. But they moved farther north when the seasons changed. I was delayed. When I reached the meeting point, they were gone. Evan's chest tightened with a quiet ache. And you kept walking through this storm to find shelter. She gave a small nod. Until your outpost called to me. A kind of warmth I did not expect to feel. Evan swallowed lightly. That was not this place. That must have been you holding on. Her silver eyes lifted to him, gentle and searching. Perhaps. But when you opened the door, the cold inside me settled. That has not happened in a very long time. Evan looked at her hands. The glow flickered again, dimmer than before. Tell me something, he said slowly. When you said dawn does not come for my kind, what does that mean for me? Lyrian lowered her gaze. Your world has its own sun. It rises for you. But here, on this land, my dawn is the only thing that lights the dark. Without it, humans see nothing but night. You would not feel its warmth or its colors. Only my people can. Evan absorbed that, glancing toward the narrow sealed door where frost still gathered along the edges. So when you asked me to stay until dawn, she folded her hands over her knees, the blanket slipping slightly. I did not want to face the darkness alone. Evan felt the heater's warmth settle deeper around them, the air shifting with something tender and unspoken. Then you will not, he said, voice steady. Not while I am here. Lyrian's glow pulsed again, brighter, clearer, like a small sunrise testing the horizon. And for the first time, the room felt a little warmer without the heater's help. The heater hummed in a slow, steady rhythm, a soft mechanical heartbeat filling the outpost's dim interior. Lyrian's glow drifted across the metal floor like a thin mist, faint but persistent, as if it was trying to stitch itself back together with every breath she took. Evan adjusted a loose panel near the wall, more to keep his hands moving than from any real need to fix it. The storm outside had softened into a distant shiver, quiet enough that he could finally hear the delicate sound of Lyrian's breathing. She watched him with calm eyes, silver and reflective, the kind of gaze that seemed to see more than he said. You are restless, she murmured. Evan glanced over his shoulder. Just trying to stay awake. Long nights make me fidget. She tilted her head, studying him. Humans sleep when night is long. Do you not wish to? Evan shook his head. Not while you are still fighting to stay warm. Lyrian lowered her gaze. It is not the cold I fear. It is quiet. Quiet makes the light fade faster. Evan leaned back against the console, arms folded lightly. Then talk to me. Keep the quiet away. Her glow pulsed gently, responding to the offer. What should I say? He shrugged. Anything. Tell me about your home. Lyrian inhaled slowly, her voice soft but steady. My world has vast plains where dawn rises from the ground, not from the sky. Light grows in the soil, carried through the air like warm breath. It bends around us. Evan tried to imagine light rising from the ground instead of falling from the sky. That sounds beautiful. It is, she said, a small warmth shaping her words. We walk together at dawn, always in pairs. We listen to the light and share its warmth. She paused, fingers brushing the blanket at her lap. Without another, there is no dawn. Evan felt a quiet ache ripple through him. That must feel lonely. Lyrian nodded almost imperceptibly. It is uncomfortable. My kind is not meant to face the dark alone. Evan stepped closer, careful and slow. You are not alone now. The glow beneath her skin brightened, soft as candlelight. You say that with such certainty. Because I mean it, Evan replied. You walked into this place. You found help. That counts for something. Her eyes lifted to him again, and for the first time they held something like trust. She reached toward the heater vent, letting the warm air brush her fingertips. When I sit near you, the quiet feels less sharp, she admitted. Evan sat down a little closer, keeping a respectful distance. Then sit near me. Lyrian hesitated only a moment before shifting, her blanket brushing the floor as she moved to the spot beside him. They sat with a few inches of space between them, close enough for Evan to feel the subtle warmth radiating from her light. The glow along her arms brightened, spreading gently up her shoulders. The air around them felt warmer, the cold pressed farther into the corners of the outpost. Evan noticed her breathing ease, her posture relax. See, he said softly. That is better. Lyrian turned her head, watching him with quiet wonder. Perhaps Dawn does not need another of my kind, she whispered. Perhaps it only needs someone who stays. The heater hummed, the storm sighed, and Lyrian's light grew just a little stronger, rising between them like the first hint of a new morning. The soft warmth between them settled into a steady calm, the kind that eased into the air without asking permission. Lyrian's glow drifted gently across the floor, brighter than before, like a quiet promise holding its shape. Evan leaned back against the metal wall, letting the heater's hum fill the silence. He watched her from the corner of his eye, noticing how the shifting light along her skin responded to every breath she took. She seemed stronger, but still fragile in a way he could not quite name. You said your colony moved north, Evan said softly. Why did you not go after them later? Lyrian folded the blanket closer around her shoulders, the fabric catching the faint shimmer beneath her skin. The storms grew worse. The dark deepened sooner each night. I thought I could keep my light steady long enough to reach them, but the journey took more from me than I expected. Evan nodded slowly, understanding more than she said. So you have been traveling alone for a while. Too long, she whispered. My kind is not made for solitude. We fade when we are without connection. Evan felt something quiet shift inside him. Then it makes sense why you reached for shelter here. She looked at him, eyes reflecting the low glow in the room. I reached for what felt warm. I did not know it was you. Evan chuckled under his breath, not wanting to disturb the calm. That is a first. Usually people say I am about as warm as a broken flashlight. Lyrian blinked, puzzled. Your light is steady. It may not shine like ours, but it does not flicker. That is rare. Evan felt the words more deeply than he expected. He cleared his throat lightly and glanced at the storm monitor on the wall. The screen showed no sunrise markers, only a long, unbroken field of darkness. If the storm drops any further, I might be able to boost the transmitter, he murmured. Maybe call for help or get a beacon to ping. Lyrian watched the screen, her fingers curling slightly. If you open the door too soon, the dark may enter. I will be careful, Evan said gently. But we cannot stay here forever. She lowered her gaze. I know, but if the quiet grows stronger, my light may not survive long enough. Evan shifted so he was facing her fully. Lyrian, earlier you said Dawn needs two of your kind. But your light responded to being close to me. Is that normal? Her breath trembled. No, Evan waited, patient and steady. She continued, her voice barely above a whisper. Human presence does something to the quiet inside me. It softens. It becomes less heavy. She glanced at him, cheeks glowing faintly. Your warmth is not like dawn. It is not bright. It is not radiant. It is grounding. Evan felt heat climb to his face, surprised by the sincerity behind her words. That is a nice way of saying I am not special, he joked lightly. Lyrian shook her head. No, it is a way of saying your presence keeps me steady. Her glow pulsed, soft and real, like the beginning of a breath after holding too much inside. Evan let the silence settle again, this time warmer. If staying close helps, stay close, he said quietly. We can wait out the night together. Lyrian moved just an inch closer, her blanket brushing his arm. It was not an accident. It was trust. Her glow brightened, forming a faint halo that reached the heater's edge. Then perhaps dawn will find me, she whispered. And in the dim outpost, with only the hum of old machinery and the soft storm outside, the light between them grew just a little stronger, warm enough to touch the air. The storm had thinned to a quiet breath, the kind that brushed softly against the metal walls instead of pressing with weight. Evan checked the panel lights again, watching the slow flicker cycle across the screen. The darkness outside remained absolute, but the wind had eased enough that the transmitter might survive a restart. He stood, stretching stiffness from his shoulders. Lyrian watched him rise, her glow softening as though reacting to the slight distance. Are you leaving? She asked gently. Evan shook his head. Not leaving. Just checking the equipment. If the storm is calming, I might be able to boost a signal. Someone could pick it up. Lyrian's eyes lowered. If you step outside the door, the darkness may follow you back. Evan paused, absorbing her worry. I will not open the door unless I am sure. But we need a backup plan. She folded the blanket closer, her glow dimming at the edges. I understand. Her voice faded, uncertain. Evan stepped back toward her, lowering himself to sit beside her again. The glow brightened the moment he did. What is it? He asked softly. She hesitated, silver eyes reflecting the heater's faint orange light. I only fear losing the warmth you bring. Evan felt the words settle into his chest like a quiet truth. I am not going anywhere, he said. Not while you need me. Lyrian breathed out slowly, and the patterns beneath her skin shimmered like tiny threads of dawn. She shifted slightly, so the blanket brushed his arm again. The air between them warmed as if responding to their closeness. For a few moments, there was only the hum of the heater and the delicate rhythm of her breathing. Then the panel above them beeped, low and sharp. Evan glanced up. Power drop, he murmured. The heater is losing charge faster than before. Lyrian's glow dimmed in response, as if mirroring the failing light. If the warmth fades, the quiet inside me will grow, she whispered. And the darkness outside will feel stronger. Evan leaned forward, inspecting the panel. Battery is not failing. Something is draining energy from the room. Lyrian hugged the blanket against herself, her voice barely audible. Not something. Darkness reacts when dawn begins to form. It tries to quiet it. Evan exhaled slowly. So the light from your body is drawing attention. Yes, she said, trembling just slightly. But I cannot stop it. It is part of me. Evan looked around the dim interior, searching for anything that could help. We need to keep you warm. That is the priority. She met his gaze, her eyes soft but steady. Evan, if my dawn grows too much, the darkness will press against the door. It will try to swallow the warmth. Then we will make sure it does not, he said firmly. You focus on staying steady. Let me handle the rest. Lyrian studied him, the glow along her arms pulsing gently. Why do you speak as though my struggle is yours to carry? Evan sat back beside her, letting the warmth from her light touch the sleeve of his jacket. Because helping people is what I do, he said quietly. And because you walked into this place and trusted me. That means something. The glow beneath her skin brightened again, spreading upward in soft waves. The warmth in the room deepened, not from the heater, but from her dawn stirring quietly. Then I will trust you again, she whispered. If I grow brighter, do not be afraid. Evan nodded. I am not afraid of your light. The heater hummed. The storm outside stilled. And in the dim outpost, Lyrian's glow rose gently, as though testing the edge of morning for the first time in a long while. The glow rising from Lyrian's skin spread slowly, like a soft tide moving across the dim outpost, brushing against the metal walls and warming the air with a quiet, living shimmer. Evan watched it grow, not bright enough to illuminate the room fully, but enough to paint the floor in pale blue light. The heater lights flickered, as if adjusting to the presence of something new. Evan stepped toward the control panel and monitored the energy readings. The numbers wavered as though the room itself sensed the shift. "Your light is changing the air," he murmured. "It feels warmer, but the system is reacting like it is detecting a second power source." Lyrian drew the blanket around her more securely, though her glow seeped through the fabric like filtered dawn. "When dawn forms, everything around us feels different. Machines, air, even the ground responds. But it should not be growing this strong. Not without another of my kind." Evan turned back toward her, his voice gentle. "Maybe. Being close to someone who cares enough to stay is enough." Lyrian's gaze softened, the patterns under her skin brightening for a moment before settling into a calm shimmer. "You have a steadiness that anchors me. That is rare among my people. We burn brightly, but we shift too quickly." Evan crouched beside her, careful and quiet. "You are doing fine. Just breathe. Let it come naturally." She closed her eyes, inhaling slowly. The glow brightened, responding not to effort, but to trust. The air around them warmed more than the heater alone could account for. Evan felt it on his face, a gentle warmth that reminded him of the first moments of sunrise back home. But the panel display behind him shifted again. The storm monitor flickered from calm to erratic. The dark field outside pulsed once, subtle but noticeable. Evan straightened. "The darkness is reacting," he said softly. Lyrian's eyes opened, and her glow dimmed in an instant. "It feels the dawn inside me," she whispered. "When dawn grows, darkness tries to press closer." Evan took a breath, steady and calm. "Then we will stay ahead of it. The door is sealed. Nothing is getting in." But Lyrian shook her head gently. "Darkness does not enter like a creature. It quiets warmth. It stills the light within. It tries to make dawn fade before it forms." Evan knelt in front of her, resting one hand lightly on the floor between them. "Then stay with me. Let the light grow as it needs to. I will keep the quiet away." Her glow brightened again at his words, softening the shadows around the room. She looked at him with an expression that trembled between fear and something tender. "Evan," she whispered, "humans cannot see dawn from my kind. You will not see the colors. You will not feel the warmth as I do. It will pass through you like it is air." Evan offered a small, steady smile. "Maybe I will not see it, but I can stay long enough to know you are safe when it arrives." Something in her posture eased. The glow along her arms brightened and spread across her shoulders like a rising horizon. The heater lights steadied. The storm monitor leveled out for the first time in hours. Evan stayed beside her, letting her dawn reach into the room at its own pace. And as the soft blue shimmer filled the air, Lyrian whispered, almost to herself, "Perhaps dawn can find those who choose to stand near it, even if they are not meant to see it." The outpost warmed another degree, quiet but unmistakable, as her light began to bloom. The shimmer blooming from Lyrian's skin rose gently, as though the air itself leaned toward her warmth. The soft blue glow filled the outpost without ever becoming harsh, spreading in slow, widening circles that warmed the metal floor beneath their feet. Evan stayed close, not touching her, but close enough that her light brushed his jacket sleeve with each steady pulse. Outside, the darkness pressed silently. The storm long faded into a stillness that felt watchful rather than calm. The monitor flickered, reading no wind, no snow, nothing at all. It was as if the world beyond the door waited. Lyrian's breathing steadied as her glow rose brighter, though still gentle, like a sunrise choosing its pace. She looked down at her hands in quiet awe. "This should be impossible," she whispered. "Dawn does not rise without another of my kind." Evan rested his palms on the cool floor, grounding himself in the moment. "Maybe it is not about who is standing beside you," he said. "Maybe it is about why they stay." Her eyes lifted to meet his, silver deepening into something soft and luminous. The patterns beneath her skin shimmered, gathering strength in delicate spirals. "You say that as though you understand dawn," she murmured. "I do not," Evan admitted gently. "But I understand people. Sometimes we cannot ignite alone." Lyrian exhaled a long, trembling breath. The glow surged, soft, warm, and suddenly brighter than before. The air warmed another few degrees. The metal walls reflected faint blue streaks like ripples of light across water. Evan felt the shift, even though he could not see the colors as she would. It was a warmth that reached inward, quiet and steady. The heater flickered once, but instead of dimming, the panel stabilized. Lyrian watched her own light spread along her arms, across her shoulders, down the blanket like growing threads of morning. "This is dawn," she whispered. "It is real." Evan nodded slowly. "Then let it happen." Her voice softened. "You cannot see what I see." "I do not have to," he said. "I just have to know you are safe in it." She closed her eyes, and the glow brightened until even the corners of the outpost softened into gentle blue. The monitor screens dimmed automatically, adjusting to the unexpected illumination. Outside, something in the darkness shifted, not with threat, but with retreat, as if the presence waiting there stepped back from the warmth filling the room. Lyrian opened her eyes again, and for the first time Evan saw her truly shining, her light steady and complete. She looked stronger, her posture no longer folded inward. Even her breathing sounded different, fuller, more certain. "I did not think I would feel dawn again," she said softly. "Not without my people." Evan offered a faint smile. "Looks like Dawn had other plans." Lyrian studied him quietly. Then her expression softened into something fragile and full. "Evan," she whispered, "if you had not opened the door, I would not be here to see this." "Anyone would have helped," he replied. She shook her head gently, the glow brightening at the movement. "Not anyone. You." The outpost settled into a deep calm, warmed by a light only she could create. Evan watched the glow reflect in her eyes, and for a moment, he understood something without needing her words. Dawn had come, not for him, but because he stayed. And in that quiet, shimmering light, Lyrian whispered the truth she had carried alone for too long. "My dawn rises only for my kind. But tonight, it rose because you remained beside me." The room warmed another degree. The darkness outside withdrew, and in the soft glow that filled every corner, Evan felt something he could not name settle gently into place, as quiet and profound as morning itself.